A baby is born. Cute. He's already surrounded by technology. By age 4, she knows how to use a smartphone. He's reading. No, not from this. This. She's making a digital presentation. You don't even know what that is. He has an interest. No, not that. That. By middle school, she has built her own website and her first app. In high school,
With my Michelson interferometer, I can measure down to the fraction of the wavelength of light.
wow. The world is changing. And they are preparing for jobs that don't even exist yet.
All right, good evening, everybody. Let me call this meeting of the school board to order. I'm sorry that we're starting 15 minutes late tonight. We have a pre-agenda meeting that precedes this meeting, and sometimes that meeting goes longer than we anticipated to, and it did this evening. We're starting off, though, with something that we love to do each and every year, which is recognizing several of our students whose artwork is on the Orange County Utilities 2000 Water Conservation Calendar. And these wonderfully talented students are here with their parents, their art teachers, and their principals today. We also have special guests here from the Orange County Utilities Water Department to acknowledge our winners, and we're going to hear from them in a minute. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank Orange County Utilities for sponsoring this wonderful contest each and every year. It's quite an honor. So let's get started. Let me invite up to the podium to lead us in our pledge and our moment of silence, Adianez Perez from Oakshire Elementary School. Adianez, welcome, honey. And Adianez is in the 5th grade at Oakshire, and her artwork, which we will see shortly, is on the cover of the calendar. And actually, that's the one I just held up a minute ago, isn't it?
Yes.
So we've already seen it. So before I turn it over to you, Adianez, let me do this. I'm going to recognize Mr. Roach, okay, honey? And because he wants to say something. I know you're about to do the moment of silence, but there's somebody we need to keep in our thoughts and prayers. Mr. Roach.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sublette. I'd like you to keep this person in your thoughts and prayers tonight. This person is named Marty White. Marty White was an employee of Orange County Public Schools for, I'm sure, 30 years plus. Her claim to fame was Marty was a wonderful teacher trainer, and she delivered many workshops throughout this district, touched the lives of many kids and teachers, and was a teacher trainer throughout the country and internationally. A lot of people don't know that Marty was an author of several books, and her workshops on bully prevention were pioneering. She was the one that brought the concept to Orange County schools years ago when I was on the board. So I want you to keep this very special woman in your thoughts and prayers. I followed her throughout the East Coast in teacher training in New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I will tell you that's one presenter you do not want to follow on the professional trail. I would go in and meet my teachers, and they would say, "Yeah, we just had Marty White here last week." I said, "Oh my goodness gracious, you shouldn't have told me that." Really hard act to follow because she was so caring and thoughtful and so charismatic and funny. So I will be, on the behalf of the school board and the superintendent, I will be attending her services Friday morning, and I'll make sure, and one of the speakers, I'm going to make sure and bring that to light here with other people. But please keep her in your thoughts and prayers. She was one of a kind, and we will miss her greatly.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Adianez, we're all yours, honey.
Thank you. Please stand and bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may all be seated.
Thank you, Dinas. That was wonderful. You did a great job. We are going to continue with our presentation, and we're going to welcome up to the podium somebody that we all know well, one of our stars, Miss Ashley Sparrow. Ashley, if you could please come to the podium. Miss Sparrow, as we all know up here at the board table, is our resource teacher for dance, theater, and visual arts, and is a key part in making this wonderful art celebration possible. And if anybody happens to walk through the ELC, the school district headquarters, you'll see on some of our floors this giant picture of Orange County Public School employees. I'm going to embarrass her. She's already turning red. Ashley's the one in the tutu in the photograph.
Yeah.
Ballerina.
Thank you.
You didn't know that?
That's me.
We're all yours, Ashley.
Good evening and welcome. I am Ashley Spiro. I would like to thank Orange County Utilities for inviting Orange County Public Schools elementary, middle, and high school students to use art to express tips about water conservation. They have produced the beautiful Orange County Utilities 2014 Water Conservation Calendar. Congratulations, students. Now I would like to introduce Jackie Torbert, Orange County Water Division Manager. Ms. Torbert?
Good evening. This is one of the highlights of my year to celebrate our youth and the creativity that they have in expressing the importance of something that's so vital to our community, which is water. They've done a fantastic job of expressing what it really means to conserve water and how it is important to all of us. We've done this. This is our 5th year doing this, and every year we're always so impressed with what the students are doing. And tonight you're going to see what is the best of the best. We had over 200 kids who participated in the effort, and we had a very difficult time narrowing this down, but we do think that we have the best of the best to share with you tonight. Let's see. We've already talked about Adianez tonight, but let's go ahead and share with everyone Adianez's artwork. She's from Oakshire Elementary School, and her principal is William Bowen, and her visual arts teacher is Mrs. Monica Allison. Life starts with water. How true is that? The January calendar is Brianna Tortorelli. I'm going to butcher these names, so please forgive me, kids. Brianna is from Bridgewater Middle, and water is the driving force of all life.
And Ms. Torbert, can we do this? As you say the student's name, can they stand? We know Adina's. Where's Brianna? Brianna, stand up, honey. Let us recognize you. Wonderful. So for each one of you, as Ms. Torbert says your name, stand up while she's talking about your picture. Thank you.
And maybe say your name as well if I don't do it justice here. February is Melanie Rangel. She's from Pinar Elementary. And Melanie is not actually here with us tonight, but her teacher is here. You may stand on her behalf. Save water, love the earth. And our March calendar winner is Leah Wyckoff. She's from Corner Lake Middle. Leah. Water is our friend. And April, Nicholas Delgado. Nicholas, is Nicholas here? Yes. Clean water, that's Earth's energy drink. And Nicholas is from Freedom Middle. Emily Taylor, who's from Freedom High School. Is Emily here? Great artwork. Everyone loses when there's nothing left. Sierra Merrick, also from Freedom High School. She's our, I don't think Sierra is here tonight. She's from Freedom High School as well. Think smart, save water. Christiane Melanese, she's in July. I want you to save water. It's from Southwest Middle School. Shalea McMillan, August. She's from Cypress Creek High School. Water, the reason for life. In September, we have Leon Bramdale from Freedom High School. October is Alpha Cho, Freedom High School. Veronica Caesar is our November. She's also from Freedom High School. Let there be water under the bridge. Last but certainly not least is Samuel St. John. He's from Endeavor Elementary. Together we can conserve water for the future. We couldn't do this without having some other partners with us besides the school board. But we had Wet n Wild, who participated with us, who provided some tickets for the students, Public Supermarket, and McCoy Federal Credit Union. I think we have a representative from McCoy. She also tonight came bearing gifts. She brought each of the students a frame to put their artwork in and their pictures, so we appreciate that. And we appreciate the school board recognizing our students. There are a couple of things that are quite important to our community, one being water and then one being an educated student body, and you have that in these students, and we do appreciate you recognizing them tonight.
Well, Ms. Tarbert, thank you so much for your department, Orange County Water Department, doing this wonderful contest for us. It's really one of our highlights every year. We love to see the calendar when it comes out. And I'd like to ask, before you sit down, if you could, I'd like to ask all of our art teachers to please stand. Allow us to recognize our art teachers in the room. Please stand. Now, I want the audience to know that this board and Superintendent Jenkins, we value the arts tremendously in our schools, and because the voters of this county stepped up to the plate 3 years ago with the $1 million local option funding source, we have art teachers in all 187 Orange County public schools, which in this day and age is a rarity. So. Now, Ms. Torbert, Ms. Sparrow, at this time, I know the board would like to shake your hands, and we'd like to shake the hand of all the art contest winners. So if you all could come on up here and follow Ms. Sparrow and let us shake your hand. And any sponsors who are here as well. The representative from McCoy, we'd love to say thank you personally for your sponsorship of this event and the other sponsors.
You can represent.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Roach.
You know, we went to a school board conference this weekend, and there was a speaker there I know you all have heard of. Sir Ken Robinson was one of the speakers at our conference, and this really reminds me of one of the things he said. He talked about how every kid has deep talents. But you'll never know what they are unless you have a venue for the kids to be able to find that out and to explore that. And I think this is just one small example of the venue we have in Orange County to allow kids to go into an art class and have a challenge put in front of them and get the skills taught to them by teachers, and then produce something that there's no picture up there that could have been produced by any human being on this planet. That's what's in that head of that kid. And so I have to tell you how impressed I am. And I've only visited one class, Rebecca Adney's class. I happened to go to Freedom, and I was instructed to go to the, is it AP art? We have AP art. We have AP everything. But I walked in there, and I have to tell you, I was astonished at the talent. Because you expect to see interesting things, but I guess there must have been a dozen kids in there, and I had to stop at each one and say, how did you think of that? They had combined human beings with nature and put that into art form. And it was just phenomenal what I was able to see. It's one of the most pleasant visits I think I've had this school year. So, Rebecca, I want to thank you for that, and all you art teachers for what you do for kids is you allow them to discover something quite amazing and something that they have, and they have to be able to get that out somehow. So there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Ms. Gould.
Well, I'm gonna copy Mr. Roach because, you know, imitation is the best form of flattery. And we also had another speaker, and his name was Tom Friedman. And some of you parents may recognize The World is Flat. He wrote the book, The World is Flat, and he talks about hyperconnectivity. And the 3 things he said that kids need, there's 6 things: reading, writing, arithmetic. Those are the base things. But in this world coming forward, we need communication, creativity, and collaboration. And without the arts, none of that comes alive. It's things like arts and sports, but through the arts, that creativity, that connection, not only to an audience, but to finding things within yourself. And the work that becomes collaborative, not only because of the response, but because you're always looking to make your art better through collaborative works, really makes a difference in preparing our kids to be global leaders. And I congratulate all of you. I hope you all stick to your art because it really is truly amazing. And thank you for sharing it with the world.
Well said, Ms. Gould. Well, at this time, we're going to pause to allow our art contest winners to leave. Before you leave, I do want you to know, kids, the world is not actually flat. That's just the title of a book. Because I'm sure they're going to be going out and going to their mom and their teachers, wait a minute, what the? But thank you, parents. You should be very, very proud, and thank you for encouraging the artistic talents of your children. Have a good evening.
Technology is enabling.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know his premise?
Yeah. I haven't read the book, though. All right, before we go into our strategic plan update, two quick observations or announcements. First of all, I see that we have a troop of Boy Scouts in the room with us tonight. Good evening, fellows. What troop are you all from? 48. And 48 meets at Park Lake? Park Lake. Okay, well, welcome to the Orange County School. We're working on citizenship in the community. Terrific. All right. Well, thank you for coming tonight. We're glad to have you. And also, I want to commend one of my fellow board members. We were all so extremely proud this weekend and want the whole world to know that our very own, they called her Catherine, we call her Kat, our very own Kat Gordon was elected chair-elect, not of the local, not of the state, not of the regional, but of the National Black Council of School Board Members for the National School Board Association. Congratulations, Kat.
Mr. Sublat, may I please
Roach.
speak to the occasion? I got texts, of course, from every board member all week on where am I? I'm sitting in row 3 and all this. But when I got, and then I get Miss Flynn, she's not even there. But I want to tell you, I got the text about Kat, and she was saying to pray for her because she wanted to get this thing so bad. And I have to tell you, I shed a little tear there because I was so proud. That was we want to be tops in the nation, and we have to have something that eludes the fact that we're tops of the nation. And this woman is now a national officer, and I'm just really glad. And I think the organization is better for it too. So, board members, I'm going to do something. If you'll please forgive me. I told Miss Flynn, Miss Gordon this, but I wanted to give her something tonight. I wanted to give her something immediately, and I didn't have anything in my pocket. So I'm going to give her something, and I'm hoping that this will be a leadership thing, and maybe the board members will also ante up next board meeting. But Mrs. Gordon, I'm going to give you a Judge Rick Roach gold coin.
Would accept it from every board member if you would. It is a novelty item, and everybody in my district wants one, but we don't have enough to give everybody one. But, we want to thank our superintendent for this design. And, Rick, you have really been the forerunner in really presenting this. And I consider this an honor, and I accept it with pride because, you know what? You always want to remember your colleagues. You can ever get where you are without your colleagues. And that's why when you come in my office, you see the original board that I was with Rick and Susan and Bert and Linda. I mean, it was just a joy to be able to sit and watch and work with them. So if you do that for me, I do collect items, believe it or not. And I thank you for this, Rick, and I'm looking forward from the other board members. All right? And I really would like to just say I want to thank Dr. Jenkins, Dr. Kathy Pope, and Daryl Flynn. They were able to put together a beautiful package for me that the board said was one of the best that they had ever seen. And I was in competition with another person, but and both of the packages were so good, and we both were very, very good friends, and we're sorority sisters. So when she saw my name, she decided to just say, I'm going to withdraw. And we both work well together. And they opened up the floor, and a lot of people did not get reelected, even though they were trying to get back in. They did not accept it. But the nominating, we both are very good workers, because we both served on the National Nominating Committee. We both have been nominating chair, and we both have been regional directors. So what she did, she said that she would pull out, and no one came from the floor out of all of the people, and they unanimously voted me in. So I thank you so very much for that. Thank you, Rick. This is so nice.
The audience is looking at us blankly. This is a little bit of an inside baseball joke. These are medallions that we give out to constituents for doing great public service to Orange County Public Schools. Or teachers or students. Yeah. And you set that up perfectly, Mr. Roach. I was about to reach into my wallet to make sure I had some dollar bills in there. I didn't know. You said tribute. I was like, oh, were we supposed to contribute?
Nobody.
All right, Dr. Jenkins, let me turn it over to you for a strategic plan
Thank
update.
you, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, as you well know, we, on a periodic basis, bring you portions of our strategic plan update regarding the settlement agreement. Want to remind members of the public, our settlement agreement was in response to being declared unitary status. The board voluntarily proposed that they would have regular monitoring reports from the various sectors. So it's time for one of those interim reports. They all roll up into a final summative report by the end of the school year. Tonight we're going to hear about our extracurricular activities. That report will come from our Chief Academic Officer, Scott Fritz, and his staff.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Jenkins. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to give you the update for the extracurricular portion of the settlement agreement. The purpose of this extracurricular portion of the settlement agreement is so that all middle and high schools are advertised tryouts and all of the extracurricular activities for their locations. And with that, I'm going to start this presentation by saying it's a real pleasure that we are in compliance 100% of our middle schools and high schools with this. So we wanted to let our parents know about the extracurricular activities in the beginning of the school year. So on August 7th and August 19th, we did a Connect Orange, letting all the parents know about the opportunities for their students to join extracurricular activities. In addition to that, we put in the code of conduct at the beginning of the school year and provided to each student instructions for how that they could participate in the activities at their sites. Now, for our families in the community, it's very easy to access the sites. So we have them electronic and we have them in written list. So it's really a three-step process, and we're actually going to try this and show this for you. Oops. There we go. Let's just move. There we go. Maybe. Okay, so we go to our home page and we hit the community tab, and then we go over to extracurricular activities. Then our schools will pop up and you hit on the school name. And then all of the activities, the extracurricular activities for that school, which is Apopka High School, are listed. And you'll notice the dates of the tryouts and what the times are so that our families can reach them. In addition to that, if a parent wants to go to the regular web page, they can go to the regular web page, and right below the calendar, there's another link for them to hit, and it goes directly to that matrix we just showed you. The matrix actually lists all of the activities, anything that's an extracurricular activity. And this is an example of one of those web matrices that schools update for us. And they update them. They've designated somebody at their campus to update this and give advance notice to our parents on a regular basis. So this one's for a middle school. This one here is for a high school, and it's Timber Creek High School. And in addition to the electronic matrices that we talked about, we also said there are some written lists, and the requirements for that is that they're kept on campus and that these activities can actually go home in newsletters and other venues that schools send written information home to parents. This is for Wolf Lake Middle School, and the next one is Oak Ridge High School. And what we do is we collect through the athletic director's office, we collect 4 times a year the electronic matrices. In the written list, we collect 3 times a year. And what we wanted to show you tonight were the dates that we've already picked for the 14th, 15th year. And again, I'd like to thank the board because I want to remind you that all of our schools are 100% compliance. Thank you.
That concludes our report, Chairman. We are certainly available to answer any questions or hear your discussion.
Okay. Mr. Roach.
You know, this is just a thought that came up, Scott, in your presentation, and it's something that I had read a while back, and I just wanted to drop it just as an information item to boards and superintendent as maybe a potential discussion. But there was an interesting study done on dropout prevention and what kept kids in school, et cetera. And one of them, of course, was extracurricular activities, were meant a great deal to a lot of kids. But they did a study on high schools and found out that they established these clubs and sports they called status clubs. Status clubs were defined as the varsity sports, the junior varsity sports, the band, the chorus, the honor society, all the kind of really cool things in high school. And then they started talking about the population in high schools, which, you know, we have 3,000 kids in our high school. And it mentioned that 80% of the status positions in a high school were occupied by 20% of the student body. Because the kid that took up the slot on the football team usually took up the slot on the basketball team or the baseball team or the track team, et cetera. So there were limited positions in the extracurricular role. So when you get into high school, you might be a pretty good athlete, but you might not stand a chance of making any of the squads. And so they talked about, they made the link to a lot of kids who lost interest and because that was a big driving force for them, and it led to dropout behavior problems and lack of academic achievement. So I often wondered about how we could expand that. And I'll only give you one story, and that's a story of Ricky Roach tried out for the basketball team in 9th grade at O'Galley Junior High School team and did not make it. I want you to know, 9th graders did not make the basketball team. But the coolest thing about it was it didn't really affect me because they had an intramural team with Coach Dunn. Coach Dunn, and we played on the asphalt in the back of the school, and we played, and I had a blast playing. We broke up in teams, shirts and skins, and play. And so I really developed a lot of skill. I have you know that the end of the story is that one of the guards on the team broke his wrist, and they recruited number 22 in your program, number 1 in your heart, Ricky Roach, onto the basketball squad. And I played the last 2 games of the season. I remember the exact place I was on the court where I made my total of 4 points. 2 at the free throw line, 1 at about a 15-foot jump shot. But I was 100%. That's the only 3 shots I ever took in school. But I want to tell you that because that was really meaningful for me. And I don't know what would have happened had I not had the intramural team, but I was able to at least impress some coaches and eventually get back on the team. But I wish we had more of that. I know there's probably money involved, but I'll bet you the return on investment would be incredible. And not just athletics, but I'm talking about one principal's philosophy in a high school years ago where if 2 or more kids were interested in a particular club, that's the club would be started. They would start the club and find somebody to sponsor the club and have it. So I want us to tell you how important that is and how I think that we need to try to do all we can to expand those opportunities for kids so they don't get lost. I think that's why Acceleration Academy sometimes is so important to kids. The president of the student body at Acceleration Academy wouldn't have a chance of being the president of the student body at a large high school necessarily, and that gives them opportunities that they wouldn't normally have. So thanks for letting me throw that in there.
Mrs. Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, to Superintendent Jenkins and to Mr. Scott Fritz and your wonderful staff and committee. I really want you to know when most of us arrived on this board, this was a very major concern for the school board. It was one of the vestiges that was really out of total compliance, and we really had to bring this in, the athletics and extracurricular activities. So with the settlement agreement, I've never had anybody come before us, Dr. Jenkins, with such swift speed of being able to stand before a board, and the year is not even over, to say that this particular activity is 100% compliance. And I would like the board to give you and your staff a round of applause for that. the next point that I would like to add, so that the public would know, because we really, at the National School Board Association, I told Woody, I always said to this board, you would be surprised if you Googled or went to Ask or Excite or Hotbolt or any of the search engines and type in what counties and states have not aligned themselves with have come out of their desegregation order. You would be shocked. The National School Board is going to take this project on to find out why, with the board, Brown versus Board, why schools are still under the deseg order. So that was a major discussion in one of the workshops at the National School Board meeting in New Orleans. So what I wanted to do to make ours a little bit more friendly, I would like to ask Dr. Jenkins or you, Mr. Fritz, when you said monitored through, as Dr. Jenkins stated, that was a major piece that the board and the legal department, we knew that we needed that in, where you had monitored through. Is there any way that we could put bloodline to it instead of electronic lines? You have written this, the link and website. Is there any way that we could add that we're being monitored through the various schools, through the schools, athletic department, which is supposed to be a major part of it, and the county board committee, the name of the committee that is actually working on this, that is monitoring it to see that we stay in compliance. Yes. The Unitary Status Committee, I would like that to be shown legally on the website where you have monitored through. It is monitored through the OCPS board and staff, and then the Unitary Status Committee. And then some kind of way, maybe, list them. You can list them also, even though it would change. They will change. And that way, it'll keep us up to date. And the reason why I mention that was a major concern. People wanted to get in touch with the Unitary Status Committee, and I think Bridget, Dr. Williams knew the only person they could contact was her father, Mr. Brooks, because they did not know who was on the committee, and then you remember the committee did not meet or whatever, so it may be, they can have a little page, you put down their meeting dates and even what they talked about, and it would be like an ongoing, it is just a suggestion, but just to cover ourselves, because when we leave this board, the discussion at the National School Board, who's checking and who's monitoring, and that is a major piece that most counties did not get to do, and we'd like to acknowledge those that are working for us without cost also. So very good report, and I thank you on behalf of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon. Ms. Flynn. Mr. Fritz, great report. I just had one question. Is there a reason why it's under community as opposed to under student on our website or parent? And is there any way we can at least think about whether we can list it there as well?
Sure.
Okay. Only because I think if a student's looking or a parent is, they're going to go to those two pages.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Chair, and really, Ms. Gordon, just in answer to your question, we do have under the legal page, we have a tab for the Unitary Status Committee, and under that this year we included pictures and the name of the person, their appointee, their contact information, a little bit of a biography for them so that they have that information. So I think it would be easy just to hook up with Mr. Fritz's office and make sure that there's a link going back to the Unitary Status Committee.
All right, Mr. Fritz, thank you. Great report. Thank you. All right. We have no newly appointed administrators to recognize tonight, so let's go right to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Jenkins, are there any changes to our agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, there is one change to the agenda. Here's my note. Item 1405 was withdrawn. That will be brought at the April 22nd board meeting.
And And I'm also going to pull off the agenda, board members, from item 5.02 and move it to item 16.01 in the matter of SG, student discipline matter. And for the representative of that student, we always move those off consent agenda and put them on the regular agenda, so we can take it up after the consent agenda is adopted. All right. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I find cause to amend the agenda as requested. Can I have a motion to do so? Been moved by Vice Chair Gordon, seconded by Ms. Flynn. Is there any debate or discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. So the motion carried. All right, we do have a public hearing tonight. Dr. Jenkins, I'm going to turn over to you. We are on item 3.01, which is the rezoning for Relief School 63EW4. Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll have staff, Ms. Sandy Simpson, and her assistants walk you through it. For the understanding of the general public, this has been covered in a previous work session. This is the opportunity for the board to hear any final recommendations and take public input. Ms. Simpson.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Real quickly, if I may, I would remind you that 63 is the property number, E stands for elementary, W is the West Learning Community, and School Board District 4 is the title of the school. The timeline is in your packet, and in this particular rezoning, we did have a second community meeting based on the input we had received from the first community meeting, and we also met with several groups individually in our office to share maps and data and to hear their concerns and ideas. The input that we have received since the rural development work session has been limited as far as input directed directly to the superintendent's staff recommendation. However, we did continue to receive some of the petitions for some of the other options that had been presented earlier, and I'm going to talk about those in just a moment. Before I actually go into the map and the rezoning, I do want to talk about the input and the areas. This area that I am circling now is an area that is currently zoned for Sunset Park, and in some of our original options, we had recommended, because of the close proximity, that this area goes to the new school. However, in listening to the public, and this is one of the areas that the petitions were in, it was determined that we should provide some options that let these folks stay in Sunset Park. The reason, and it was an argument that was very valid, we felt, that when the next school opens, they would probably, or there's a chance that they could be rezoned back to Sunset Park and not to move them twice. The second area I'd like to point out, I kind of call it the East Reams Road area, and it's down here in the area I'm encircling now. And that area was, for the most part, in a lot of the options, was left in Sunset Park. It's fairly close to Sunset Park, and there is a distance around to the new school. But in some of the options, when we put these folks back in, our numbers got larger, so we took some of these folks out, and these folks said, please, no. We're opening a school in our area probably very soon, within 2 years, we hope, and of this school opening. So we'd be moved and moved back. So that was their concern, and it was, again, a valid concern like these folks had a valid concern. And then one of the petitions that we received and continued receiving input from was the Sand Lake zone that would prefer to have had limited impact in this rezoning. So if we can talk now specifically about this map. As a reminder, the red lines show the current zone lines. The icons here, this is Sand Lake Elementary, Sunset Park Elementary, Kings Crossing Elementary, and the new school site. The shaded areas, that's sort of a salmon color, that color is what Kings Crossing would be if this is adopted. The yellow area shows the new school zone, and the pink is Sunset Park, and the green is Sand Lake Park. Each of the information boxes does share what the enrollment is, the capacity, and what we project the enrollment would be in 2015 when the school opens in fall of 2015. We also provided you with a data table, and this is the data table that you saw before. The only difference, of course, is it's now called Superintendent Staff Recommendation, and it shares with you the capacity, the enrollment, the current students, the proposed enrollment, and then other additional student demographic information, including free and reduced meals, the FCAT levels 1s and 2s, English language learners, and ESE. It is the staff recommendation that this option before you tonight is the one adopted. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Simpson. All right, board members, questions before I go to Ms. Gould? Okay, I don't have currently any speaker cards on this agenda item. Has anybody come tonight to speak on this issue? All right, then Ms. Gould, let me recognize you, ma'am, since it's your district.
First and foremost, I want to thank the staff for all of the hard work that they put into this. It has been a whirlwind few months, and especially the weeks after the last presentation on this. I did have an opportunity to go out and visit with some of the folks from both schools again and talk through this. And while nobody finds this the absolute ideal situation, because we continue to have several people just showing up every day on the doorsteps of our schools out in the West Orange County. They're going to help us make the best of it, and I truly appreciate that. And, there's a few things within this that we hope to have done, and hopefully we will keep on track with moving up the other Relief Elementary School for Sunset Park and Sand Lake as we go forward with our budget discussions. And the one concern, and we got it in a letter today, was making sure that the classrooms at Sand Lake are ready, willing, and able to accommodate all of the new students, because some of those classrooms had not been in use up to this point. So, Dr. Jenkins, if you could just briefly address how that's handled, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly, Ms. Gould. We encounter this all the time in the district when we go through rezonings, and so we have pretty clear guidelines on what resources are moved from the school that is losing students to the school that is gaining those students, as well as making sure every classroom is appropriately outfitted for our students. And so Area Superintendent John Rudzik is on top of that even as we speak.
Thank you very much. What we all want to do is just keep working towards getting everything equalized as much as we possibly can, and I know everybody on this board is dedicated to that, as my community is, and we know how important the sales tax and that component coming up in our ability to really follow through on a lot of items. But we will continue to move forward and try to have the most minimal impact, and that was really one of the reasons why, in looking at all the various maps and even continuing to take input, go back and look, take input and go back and look in my own homework in the last few weeks, I just see this as the best of the options that we have at our disposal at this time. So I would like to move this issue forward and hope that you all will support it so that we can move on to planning for the next phase of our community's growth.
All right, Ms. Gould has moved that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation for the rezoning of school 63-E-W-4. It's been seconded by Mrs. Robinson. Is there any further discussion or debate? I just want to say briefly, Ms. Simpson, I thought your office did a wonderful job with this. Ms. Gould, you did a fine job handling this issue. No rezoning is easy. This one for me, it was particularly difficult because of the geography of West Orange and the road networks and the distances. and the fact that we have other relief schools coming online, which frankly was an eye-opener for me when I found that out, and it really sort of changed my whole perception of it. The desire not to move children multiple times. But I agree. I mean, no rezoning's ever easy, but this was a hard one because it was really a Hobson's choice, and no matter what we did, you know, we were not satisfying some element of the population, and they had valid gripes too. But I thought we handled it as well as we possibly could have. So thank you, Ms. Simpson, as always. Mr. Roach?
Yeah, I just want to tell Mrs. Gould I'm very happy for you that this went smooth. Lord knows you need a break, and this one went smoother than I anticipated. And just want to thank you for all your hard work. You've had lots on you this school term. I feel like you're an 8-year veteran. You've had about that much stuff come at you. So I just want to personally tell you how happy I am for you and what a good job I think you do of really hearing both sides of the coin and trying to come up with good proposals for your community. Real proud.
Mrs. Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bless your heart. No, I always tease Pam about the gray hair, but I do want to say you did extremely well here in bringing this to the board. I want to really thank the superintendent too and her staff, especially Sandy Simpson and her entire office. Like this was a tough one, like Bill said. It was like a quiet tough, but it was like a struggling tough. But I think we want to thank the parents, and I told Bill if I know some of them are here, just a few, and I think you didn't have to even come. But if it had not been for the voices, even when we decided, okay, this is good, they came into you, Pam. They wrote every single one of us. We went out there, everybody took a look at what they were talking about, and for them to come together, they came together. And with your leadership, I just think it's wonderful. So, Bill, you may want to do the honors there if some of the parents are still here, and I do see a couple. I see a couple of them, and they're quiet. They look like staff. You've gotten so good, you look like Sandy Simpson's staff. And I really just thought it was a very smooth transition. It was a very smooth, and I do want to commend that community because I know how hard it is. And like I told you, my community is, we're just happy to get a school or to get anything, you know. But I thought that you really worked. We use the word collaborative and on this board. I use it a lot because I love it. You really did it because you had parents over here, over there, and in the middle. And the majority of you have come together, and I know you're going to be very proud of your school in that community, and I'm going to be proud to be there working with you. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gordon. Well, you know, you've had a lot of issues in your district when we get to know your parents well. I walked in tonight, it's like, oh, I know them. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Does everybody understand what they're voting on? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Show the motion carried unanimously. All right, we are now on the consent agenda, but it's been pointed out to me, I failed to notice, we do have another Boy Scout in the room with us tonight in the middle of the room. Thank you for joining us tonight. What troop are you from? 148, and where do you all meet at? Lake Island, terrific. Mr. Swinski's troop. Tell him I said hello. Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. All right, we're now on the consent agenda this evening. Can I have a, yes, Dr. Jenkins.
Give me the initial. I'm sorry, I believe there's one other parent here for a discipline matter that did not fill out a yellow card, so I want to extract that name before we do the consent agenda. In section item 504, student by the initials JS is being removed from the consent agenda from the matrix, initials JS, and then that would be the next subsequent non-consent agenda item.
Okay. 16.02. Mr. Rodriguez, I don't mean to be a stickler for detail. Should I have a motion to remove student JS, or can we just dispense with that? Do I need to do that? All right, it's been moved by Ms. Skadel, seconded by Vice Chair Gordon. I'll understand we're just removing student JS to 1602. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. All right. All right. And if whoever here is to represent JS, if they could, okay, never mind. We've already done it. Terrific. All right. Anything else on the consent agenda? All right. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? It's been moved by Ms. Flynn, seconded by Mrs. Robinson. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Show the consent agenda adopted. All right. Let me make a brief announcement. We are now on 16.01, which is in the matter of SG. And let me announce this to the audience and to the viewing audience as well. All board meetings are videotaped and aired on Orange TV in their entirety, with the exception of student discipline and employee matters. In keeping with school board policy, if a speaker refers to a student discipline case or employee matter, his or her comments will not be included in the broadcast version of the board meeting. So these two student discipline matters will not be broadcast. We are now on reports by attorneys. Mr. Rodriguez.
Members of the board, just a couple of reports. Let me start first by saying that next April 17th, as you're aware, we received information from the CTA that they are challenging components of the special magistrate's report. So that means on the 17th at 4 o'clock, which is a week from this Thursday, you will have the impasse hearing. I will be providing you all with a memorandum before the end of this week with what that process will look like. I'm also going to listen to one of the previous hearings that you guys had on this similar issue to see what Mr. Kruppenbacher had briefed you on for those of you that have served in the past. Make sure I'm as educated in this process as I can be. But I will share with you that once again, at this point, Mr. Palmerini and his role is to represent the superintendent and their viewpoints on this, and the union is represented by outside counsel. You're acting in a quasi-judicial manner, so I would ask that you again refrain from contacting either one of the two parties in the next party matter when it pertains to issues regarding the dispute resolution and the dispute over the special magistrate's report. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. You know how to reach me and have questions about that. And after you get the memorandum, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. But I suspect you have been exposed to a similar process when we've done the exceptions hearings, so you're going to find that there is some comfort in the process, and it's both sides will get a chance to present, and then you'll get a chance to have some input, and then you'll be taking a vote. There is no public input, by the way, in this process. It's not, there's nothing that requires you to take public input, let's put it that way. And in my discussions with other attorneys throughout the state on this particular issue, they do not typically encourage or provide for public input because that's just additional testimony, but it's not really the testimony of the parties at odds, which is the quasi-judicial process that would be dictated. The second issue that's of significance and probably of weight for most of you is the announcement yesterday that the representatives from the school board as well as representatives from the county have reached a very tentative agreement. I say tentative because at this point there are still several significant areas where both bodies have to take action. Chairman Sublette represented your interest along with the superintendent, myself, Mr. Marchena, and on one side, and then Mr. Boyd, Commissioner Boyd, Ajit Lalchandi, who's the county manager, and their legal counsel was there, and we went through a lengthy mediation process on April 1st, over 8-9 hours. We came back yesterday and had another at least an hour, almost 2 hours of further discussions. But at the end of the day, there is now a possible resolution. It involves the Beck property that you own. That agenda item will be coming back on the 22nd of April. On that same date, the county commission will be voting on that. And what it provides for is that the stadium would be moved off-site. It provides that you would provide some additional architectural features to the prototype that you have for that facility, along with the other features you had previously, the school board had presented, the wall, for example, some of the features regarding additional capacity for cars to be on site, so you lessen the impact on traffic on the road, et cetera. It will require the application to be going back, the special exception application back to BZA if the county agrees, and then it would ultimately come back to the Board of County Commissioners and more public input in a meeting. My expectation is that if the either party rejects it on April 22nd, then you are going back to court, because at that point you have concluded Chapter 164 and all the requirements that are there to try and resolve this. If both parties agree on April 22nd, however, it does not mean that the school board has convinced the county commission to accept the property and its conditions or anything else. Simply what it would mean is that the county commission would grant the school board the opportunity with these additional conditions to bring it back through that public input process. And while we were successful at BZA the first time, we would expect that we would present all of the information we had before, maybe in a concise version, as well as what the changes are since the last time. And then the BZA would have public input. That meeting is projected to be sometime in May. And if it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, it would be sometime in June. So by July 1st, we did indicate that the parties would have to get this resolved one way or the other. And if it fails again before the Board of County Commissioners, then we would again go back to litigating this matter. Secondly, there is still the north of Alberts property. Contrary to some of the dialogue you may have heard from constituents or others, we have been very diligent after that February 18th meeting. In fact, our office is in the process of documenting all of the different correspondences we've had with Ms. Pignon, her lawyer, our conversations that we've had with the county commission or the county commission staff with regards to this property. We initially thought the property would cost about $20 million in a variety of different expenses. After further discussions with the property owner, as we sit here today, we're still in the $18 to $20 million ballpark. The only thing that's changed is now some of the costs have been shifted to the county, and they would be responsible for some of the road work, which they've estimated at about $8 million. That being said, in my last communication with their attorney yesterday, they were waiting to see what happens as a result of the mediation agreement. We had given them a term sheet, and they had politely not accepted it. And we had been very clear that we were not comfortable with the term sheet they had offered us. So we had no meeting of the mind, but they wanted to wait to see what the mediation process bears out. I did notify their counsel yesterday that we had reached a tentative agreement and that this board will be deciding on the 22nd. So I expect to hear back from them before next week, and if not, then I will update you at the next board meeting as to what the status is with North of Alberts. But the ball is clearly in their court to adjust their offer. As the offer sits here today, I cannot recommend that to the board simply because of the cost, and I'm not sure that the county commission is prepared to expend roughly $8 million on the North of Alberts road improvements. So those are the major moving parts and pieces with regards to that process, and our office will be fairly busy over the next couple of weeks as we bring these two issues for your consideration.
Ms. Cadle.
Mr. Rodriguez, as you know, we did deny some development out in the West Orange community. And we said when we came, the intent of my motion was when we came to resolution. And I want to be good to my word, but what I am hearing right now is we don't know yet. And so as you're looking at all of this, I would like you to advise us exactly when is the appropriate time, because one of the things that was said the last time, and there's an information item here today, and it was interpreted as a second reading. Well, first and second readings only happen over at the county commission. It is here as an agenda item, as an informational item, and usually what happens is in an informational item, the next meeting it moves up for us to take action on. Once again, it's a school, it's a development that affects and puts students into West Orange High School. I would like the very best thinking of when will we know? And it may be that on the 22nd you say, you know, it's going to be June 1st, or because I would like the developers to know that as soon as we figure this out and we know that we can start on the planning and get it to happen. So if while you're looking at all of the moving parts, if you can give us your best legal advice of when it is appropriate. I'm not comfortable. I don't know if there's ways you put conditions on it, but I want to make sure that I know where this high school's going and I know when it's going to open before we put any more stress on the West Orange High School.
So Ms. Fernandez is typically the expert in this area, but I know that for most of our agreements, in fact, not most, all of our agreements that we're entering into for CEAs, we do put a provision in there that says that they're not cleared until the site design has been effected. And at this point, there is no site design that can be constructed because we don't even know which property we are going to be building on yet. I would submit to you that on April 22nd, you will still not have that answer with any kind of clarity. Sometime before July 1st, you may have greater clarity and you may not. So it's very speculative for me to say that, but I can tell you that the agreement, the tentative agreement, does not bind the county commission to accept the Beck property at this time, and it doesn't. It gives you a second chance at looking at that particular, for them to look at the property with certain additional conditions, and obviously you've made those recommendations in your agreement.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is directed to the General Counsel. Are there, okay, out of this agreement, help me to understand it, because I'm really not in agreement with the agreement. Okay, but because I think when you begin to split a school, you're also still splitting the community. And, okay, you don't know what the design, like you said, is going to be, but you know that the agreement that was reached is to move the stadium a mile away from the campus.
That is correct.
Okay, and so you have happy campers. Who are the happy campers on that? One man, two people, three, the county commissions.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the county commission feels on that. I don't.
Now that's the next question. Good thing. So if the county commission does not agree on that, you briefly mentioned, but I got lost in it, with the division of a major high school and an almost upcoming metropolitan community. Winter Garden is going to explode. I don't care what anybody say. I've had so many people say they're moving to Florida. Yesterday, it's pathetic. Okay, and I think it's wonderful because I moved here too. But the point is, so help me with that part.
Well, Ms. Gordon, on April 22nd, both the county commission and you, in separate board actions, you'll be voting on the same agreement that they will. You will either vote the agreement up and say, I'm in favor of this, even though I may not like the idea of a stadium off-site, but I'm supportive of it, or you may say, no, I don't want that here. And if either board rejects it, we're back in court.
Okay, and I want to thank the chairman, and I want to thank Ms. Pam Gould for yielding and allowing our chairman to be there for us, along with the superintendent and your knowledge, and with your entire general counsel, your whole staff, because I know you've worked extremely hard. So help me to get it now, because I don't want to leave here tonight, because all of us get emails and we get calls, and to be able to speak intelligently about this. So when the agreement came up that we will bill, but we don't know what we're going to bill, but we do know we will move the stadium a mile away. Help me with the rationale there. How did you all come to that rationale?
No, here's the concern.
Okay, no, you can tell me behind
Yeah, and
just after the meeting, because
Okay.
see, I'm beginning to hear lawyering coming in there, and
the wheels are certainly clicking
Yes,
for me
they
to figure out how
are.
do I
Yes, they
explain this to you. But
Yes,
the
they
reality is that was conducted in the mediation. More importantly, though, this is an item that's going to come up for a vote on the 22nd. So I'm
Okay,
concerned
now
about.
help me with this. Just help me now. I'm just a little board member. Okay, with one vote, help me with it. So when the community comes, we're going to ask the community to either vote for a school right where it is, right what we are recommending, or we're going to ask them to vote for the mediation where the stadium would be a mile away. I want to know what input has the community given on the stadium being a mile away.
I think throughout the course of all of the community meetings I've attended, and I'm not the board member in that area, so you may want to direct that at her, but I think one of the considerations, one of the concerns has been the amount of traffic, noise, and issues that a stadium causes. And that was why that was one of the issues that was on the table about if you remove it, what will be.
Okay, but where the mile away and the piece that I think that you showed me, that's a growing area. There will be homes there. Then you know what Disney did. I was living, I'm not there now, but my daughter is right behind Washington Shores on Lake Man. And I heard Disney every night. What I'm trying to understand so we could be, what is it, the fiduciary rights that we have to represent the public? Have we been honest with the public to let them know exactly what a major high school stadium of that site, what kind of noise? You talk about traffic. I knew when to go pick up my kids from Jones High because the band came off the field at 10 o'clock. So we all got in our car and all the parents, beep, beep, come on, let's go get the kids. Because the band was through and we know to go get them. When they have major events at the Citrus Bowl, we hear everything. So how is it, what I'm trying to ask with our fiduciary rights that we have to the public and to that community, what have we told them about the noise level that they're getting ready to impact a mile away and that noise is going to drift right back into the settlement?
Ms. Gordon, from the county's viewpoint, that site was selected as an alternative by them because essentially of its location. It's surrounded by wetlands.
But did they provide noise ordinance and what a high school, did they speak with our facilities department to find out what kind of noise that they're getting ready? And you know that community is going to use that stadium for more than football field. Because that's going to be the key, just like they use Dr. Phillips.
That site has actually been selected as a public park that they had acquired.
Oh, yes.
And so I think the county contemplated that there would be public uses on that property.
Yes.
Because the surrounding area to that particular location does not have any residents.
Not yet, but it's proposed.
No, that one in particular, Ms. Gordon, actually has wetlands surrounding it. And so as of right now, there's nothing around it. Yeah.
I've seen wetlands turn in this up the street.
That may be true.
By the jail.
That may be true.
Okay, let me do this. This is important to me. And you still didn't answer if the public had an input, and that's what we do. Did they have an input about the stadium? Are they in agreement about the stadium? Did both sides come up that they're okay. Because remember, the mediation is supposed to come back and let us know that they're happy so that we will know how to vote and continue to make them happy.
I think that's the process you're going to hear during the BZA and the board meetings.
You're
and
not
you'll hear
answering it.
Ms. Gordon, they're
I
not
know.
invited to the mediation because it's not a mediation with the public. It's a mediation between the county commission and the school board.
Our board meeting will be with the public, and are you going
Yes,
to
ma'am.
prep and prepare us and how to address the public when they question us, when this noise level overflows into their quiet community?
Absolutely.
All right.
Between now and the 22nd.
Thank you, General Counsel.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gould.
I kind of forgot what I was going to say. Let me think back. I just wanted to remind Mrs. Gordon of the meeting that we had with the community that I think you attended all of it at Bridgewater Middle School, and part of that came up there, but part of the suggestion came up there, but it is my understanding, based on what Mr. Rodriguez said this evening and the timeline that was put out by Commissioner Boyd today, that it is going to go through still another multiple hearings for the community to have input on. So, and so I totally forgot my original intent, but that did come up when you were speaking. If it comes back, I'll chime back in.
You know, I just want to observe, I punched my button, that there are some issues in government and in life and in general that, frankly, there's just no solution that's going to please everybody. And that's not unique to the law, and it's not unique to government. It's just there are those issues out there that exist. And at the end of the day, when you go to a mediation, it is a process of compromise, and it's called alternative dispute resolution for a reason, and that's because both sides in any litigation, if they resolve their differences at mediation, have compromised, and rarely in my experience does either side ever walk out of there with everything that they would like. And frankly, it's risk avoidance. At the end of the day, we know from our analysis that the best site for our high school, for the students and for the families that they will serve, and also for the entire needs of our entire district, is the County Road 535, or what we call the Beck property site. We also know from the extensive analysis we've done that to go elsewhere it would be prohibitively expensive. Not only that, we have not yet been able to find land to go elsewhere that can serve centrally those students and families that we're attempting to serve. I have no doubt that there will be those who are our many supporters for the Beck property site who will not be happy that we moved the stadium off-site. We do have precedent. Winter Park High School, you know, their stadium is located off-site, and they've made it work through the years. On the other hand, the county was faced with the pressures of the rural settlement and the fact that those homeowners in particular are unhappy with the perceived impacts of a high school. And one of the most notable impacts that has been raised repeatedly has been the stadium lighting, football games, etc. So that's something that they brought to the table. I think in a perfect world, we would have rather built a stadium on the Beck property site, as we do with our typical prototype high school. We would have probably rather built it to the prototype design. But we knew in the interest of our students and families that we serve, we had to compromise, and those were two of the issues that we gave on and that we're spending more money on to build it to a different architectural style than we would have normally built our prototype, and we agreed to move the stadium off-site. The county, if this goes through, and you know, there's nothing certain yet, but if this goes through and their county commission supports it, they've made some significant compromises as well. So, you know, I guess it's a long-winded way of saying that there's no perfect solution to this. I don't think we'll ever come up with a solution where we make everybody happy. But I think Mr. Rodriguez did a fine job. The county staff did a good job. And it was a very professional mediation. And I just want to thank the board and the administration for their support and Ms. Gould for all the work that she's done out in her district. And the options that were laid on the table were generated almost entirely from her community meeting and from our preparation that we had done in the run-up to this. And I think the county took note of what the community would be willing to live with and wouldn't be willing to live with as they went into the mediation as well. All right, anything else on this information item? No? Okay. Let's go into committee reports.
Oh, my report.
Oh, Dr. Jenkins, I'm sorry. Superintendent's report, my bad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will usually concede when the hour is long, but there are just three things I want to mention to you briefly. And you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't say I appreciated the board giving us certain stipulations, certain direction, and certain leeway as you sent us to that mediation. I want you to know the chairman and general counsel certainly did you proud, and I would concur with what the chairman has said as well. Mediation is about compromise, and we believe we can make it work. We are very hopeful that we can move forward swiftly. Here are the three things I wanted to share with you. Number one, Governor visited out at Colonial High School this morning. Two board members, board member Flynn and Cadle, were there as well. Our chairman was feeling under the weather. We certainly gave his apologies for not being there. But I want you to know our students at Colonial made us extremely proud as they spoke openly with the governor about plans for college and how costly it is becoming. And they were there along with their parents and just talked about those struggles. And he had an open engagement with them that they were so appreciative of. You'll see on several websites, I believe, some selfies that they took with the governor, which he accommodated gladly. But I was just extremely proud of the way our students spoke up from someone who's a class president getting lots of scholarship money, but still about $10,000 short in her calculations of what it's going to cost, to one student who has capabilities that ought to be pursuing college, who says, I've got to sit out a year and try to work and save instead of going straight to college. And so while the governor is gathering that kind of input for his efforts around making college affordable, I wanted you to know how proud we were, how pleased we were with our students at Colonial. Secondly, tonight, Ms. Gordon will be so pleased to hear this. We've been working for some time on plans for capturing our own alternative school, and tonight you did approve. He's not here because he's from out of district. Dale Johns will be our administrator as we bring Excel and Positive Pathways in-house and under the district umbrella at great savings to the district as well. Wanted to let you know that is moving forward swiftly. And then thirdly, we are pleased that once again, all 19 of our high schools made the Washington Post most challenging high school list. 11 are in the top 100 in Florida, and Oak Ridge and Freedom are in the top 50. So we are pleased for our high schools, certainly commend them as well. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
That is wonderful news. All right, committee reports. Communications, I was told no committee report, but we will have a discussion, board members, if you weren't there at the committee meeting next week, on the timing of the ballot language for the sales tax extension.
I thought we were going to be requesting that it be an agenda item at our next meeting.
I'm just letting everybody know. Yeah, no, we are. It's going to be an agenda item, and we're going to have a discussion at that time and a decision. Is there a community action board report, Mrs. Gordon?
Yes, there is a Community Action Board report, but I'm going to ask you in lieu of it, can I give the NSBA report?
I was going to go, yeah.
Okay, in the package, though, but I do want you to pay attention to that they're going to have, I thought I was so organized here. Yes, it is World Refuge Day. That is in 19.01, the Community Action Board, Orange County Government, World Refuge Day, 10 o'clock a.m. to 3 at Oak Ridge High School. They're using our community, okay, and that's a Saturday, June the 21st. So I think that that's a plus that the Orange County government and other organizations are using our schools to bring that in. So you can give them a call on that, but it should be, we're going to ask Ms. McGill to reference it on your calendar if you could be there. And I just took that excerpt. One other thing out of the community action report is that we really want to give them credit for the GEDs and the ESOL classes that they are providing for us in partnership. I just think that that's wonderful. So I thank you. You heard about the Norlands, and I do want to say, I know the chairman's going to come in on this, Mr. Dylan Thomas and our chairman. I couldn't get to go to their, I think Ms. Cato went, and I think Ms. Gould was at their workshop, but everybody went. Christine was busy back home, and Daryl had to take care of everything in Tallahassee for us with Scott and here. So other than that, all of the board members were represented in at the National School Board Association, but we heard great raves about Dylan. And even though somebody said, I think Bill said it wasn't that many people in his workshop, but somebody talked about it. And somebody wrote it up. That was an excellent workshop. So I think it was Dylan and Rick, and then yours. That's it. And Dr. Diaz. See, I didn't even know she was there. All righty. So, but they talked about you, Bill. So, Dr. Diaz, bless you on that. I thought we'd let you know on the national level, Orange County School Board. All right. The next thing, the little gift that you have, I know you all talked about New Orleans with the praline and the peanut butter brittle, but I want you to know the new incoming president from New York, please go online and listen to her speech. It's the direction in which the entire National School Board will be going. Ms. Gould and I were there to hear her delivery of it, and we want to we are aligning our program with hers because I think that's what she took out of most of it. So that's compliments from her. I brought it. That was her kickoff, and I asked her, could I bring back a sample? They are not from New Orleans. She said, you really need the real peanut brittle and praline from New York. So that's where that's from. Okay, the next thing was, you all mentioned all of the guest speakers. Pam Gould brought with her a good friend and neighbor, Mr. Simon, with his books Brilliant. He rattled the audience. He was the last speaker, which was a dishonor to him, but the place was still, lots of people were still there, but everybody was talking about Simon, and he's right. He's been, Dr. Jenkins have had him to present to us on many occasions here in Orange County. So we had a lot of great speakers. The caucuses are no longer the caucuses. It's no longer the Hispanic caucus. They are changing the name to council. The only one that you have injustice to is the American Indian and Alaska Native, but the three of us are all combined. We are three, even though we're the African American Council and the Hispanic Council and the American Indian Alaskan Caucus. So they're asking if you know anybody that are school board members that we look at the number of American Indian and Alaska Native in our district, and I know we've done that, and ask that we give them representation as we select them for administrative and teacher positions, because they know that they're in our county, but we're not using them because they say they just be on the reservation having a good time. And that's how they told it to us. They had no role model. I don't want to tell you all the things they told us what they do, but if you come after this meeting, I'll let you know. But it's unbelievable they did not have role models. So now they are getting, they bragged on having a superintendent. And your heart just breaks when you hear that. But let's pray for them like everybody prayed for African Americans and Hispanics to have a seat and a voice at the table. The school laws, there were things that we have problems with. They showed us how we can stop the public from coming in as subcontractors and saying, hey, you guys owe us. There are policies that we can write as a board. So I'm going to ask Mr. Sublette if he would put that down. That can be really handled through the superintendent, and they can bring back ideas to us also once Mr. Morris speak with those legal attorneys and with our general counsel, Woody. I think it shows you, they told us exactly what to do to keep the subcontractors, because Bill has to explain, well, we don't give you the check So that is so important from now on. If we have these policies in place that we write and get them approved through the board and take them through the superintendent, we will no longer have that problem. So I want to bring that back for us. And then Nashville, you see, we're going to Nashville next year, and that should be a great conference. And I brought you back little pins, so when you get to Nashville, you'll have your Nashville button on and your pin. The last thing that I would like, the last two things, I had an opportunity to have lunch with Magic Johnson, and he spent quite a bit of time. I brought my picture back to show you that I'm not on Facebook yet, but I will be after this. We're going to put him on. And it is an honor. He talked about how he could come and be partners in the community and help. There were so many superintendent and board members there that he had already helped. He does what Mr. Rosen does. He's a philanthropist, and I didn't know he was one of the richest men in the world. So that kind of shocked me. And so I thought that was nice. I also won 2 autographed jerseys by him. And he asked me, did I have anybody to give them to? I said, yes, because they're over $50, and I'm not taking them. So I asked him if he would mail one here to the school board for Dr. Jenkins, and then the other one, I don't know, somebody in my family will get it, because I'm not entitled to wear the jersey. It is a very beautiful, it's his original jersey. So I love the Lakers. I went to the game, but I'm a Magic fan. Oh, my God. And he's Magic. Okay. So I wanted you to know that. And the last thing that I don't want all of you, Bill came to the luncheon, Pam came to the luncheon, Joey came to the luncheon, Dr. Jenkins was at the luncheon, Rick, we were trying to get you at the luncheon. But it was a wonderful luncheon. We had the opportunity to meet and talk with and spend quite a bit of time with Will Haygood. Will Haygood is a cultural historian, an author, Pulitzer Prize winner. He wrote The Butler, A Witness to History, and he told us stories that will tear your heart apart. So I suggest that you go on nsba.org. I believe somebody recorded it, but he was just so, Bill, you met him. You got to meet him and shake his hand and everything. So it's so much that we could tell you, but the nicest thing, being a librarian, the gentleman, Mr. Allen's house, will now be a historical home in Washington, D.C. So, Dr. Jenkins, on behalf of you not being able to stay, there is a note in here, and it's autographed to Superintendent Jenkins' mother, a personal note to her. And then, I think he fell in love with you. He was angry that you didn't stay, so he wrote you a personal note. And this is a love letter from him to you. All right? Yeah, and I got, so Dr. Jenkins on behalf of Mr. Will Haygood, he said, yes. Thank you. Love you. And Mr. Chairman, that ends my report.
Hey, Bill, will you tell the story about him going to the inauguration? Because I don't think there was a dry eye in the house when he finished that story. Would you share that? Okay, well,
I was literally choking back tears.
you know, he was talking about how he finally got to interview the butler and Mr. Adams, and his wife died like the day before the election, and there were 3 tickets that were sent to Mr. Adams, his son, and to Mr. Haywood to come to the inauguration. So I think they had VIP tickets, and I guess they rode the metro or whatever, and they get there, and he is getting winded, and it's very, very cold, and they weren't sure he was going to make it. And he looked at the 2 and said, each one of you take one of my arms and walk me there. And they got him there, and his comment was, because he had served how many presidents?
8.
a lot of presidents. And this was the first time he had ever been to the inauguration. And by the time that he finished telling this story, there was hardly a dry eye in the luncheon. It was just a phenomenal story.
Bill, I don't know if Mrs. Gordon mentioned Dylan Thomas and I's, but we had about 55 people there. 55 different states got a shot at Leadership Orange with Dylan's leadership over there, and we only had 5 walkouts. But 3 people came late, so we figured just 2 people walked out of their presentation. So I wanted to thank Dylan. It was a pleasure working with him.
We're jealous you got the Saturday afternoon slot.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had Sunday morning at 8 a.m.
Late.
And we had a bang-up presentation, but we had 5 people there.
Oh, my goodness.
I heard it was good.
But Dr. Diaz did a phenomenal job, as did Dr. Stanky.
We had a lot of interest in the program, though. It's really nice to hear that.
Ms. Flynn.
Mr. Chair, I attended the event with Governor Scott, and I wanted to brag a little bit more on the Colonial students, because I think not only did they represent Colonial High very well, but they represented OCPS, and I think they're very representative of the young, intelligent, and poised and respectful students that we have in this community. But they brought up so many different, as the superintendent said, so many different types of challenges and obstacles that they have to overcome to get funding to go to school. But I wanted to bring up some that you think, wow, you know, what an unintended consequence. Some of our students get an AA degree when they graduate from high school. I mean, an AA, that's 2 years of college. But then when they go on, they're not counted as freshmen. So it knocks them out of the Bright Future scholarships and some other scholarships. So here they get a double. Now granted, they've saved 2 years of college. So, I mean, that's a big savings. That's a big scholarship right there. But then they've got 2 other years to go. So I just wanted to say that was an obstacle that they have. They talk about, you know, of course, non-working parents, they can't get loans. And even working parents that make too much money to get loans. So it was very eye-opening. We get these kids to this point, and then so many of them are really hitting some very, very high walls that they have to overcome. And they were smart. I mean, they know that they don't want to have loans that will saddle them for the rest of their lives or for, you know, a few years. But then there was that tenacity that they showed. I just have to say this one. When you talk about getting emotional, this one senior, she's president of her class, and she openly said, we're in Section 8 housing. We're on food stamps, all this. She goes, but I'm going to do it. I don't care what. I'm going to achieve that. And that unquenchable, you know, thirst to get educated. I just wanted to say, it was very powerful to sit and listen to these kids, and they are indicative of the type of students that we're producing. Top students in the nation. So I just had to put a little bit more of the push. And then I wanted to say, these are nice cameras. Did you notice our new cameras? When I was contemplating what I was going to say the other, I looked up, so. Okay, thank you.
You know, some of you have heard me speak before, and I'm very passionate about this. I tell young kids all the time, just go. Get in the car and go. Because lots of us in this room did that. And if you just go and you get to that college campus, you find a way to make it work. You might only take 6 hours or 9 hours. You might pump gas or wait tables. But every group of kids I say, don't let anybody tell you can't. Don't let anybody tell you to delay it. Just throw your stuff in the car and go. You'll be amazed how you figure out a way to live if you just go.
You know, the governor kept saying, though, and one of the points he was saying was just the huge cost of college. Even our state tuition's going up 15%. And even if these kids work, though, even if they work full time, it's still not enough. It's hard. There were a lot of catch-20, yes, but I'm just going to say there's a lot of obstacles and challenges that our kids are facing, and maybe we can look ahead at how we can help them. I don't know. Thank you.
Good point. All right, Florida School Board. I'm sorry, Ms. Gould, and then Florida School Boards Association.
I had two things I wanted to share. One is, since we're on kids, this is actually the perfect segue from Ms. Flynn. First is the Principal Guy Swenson shared Tony Wu, who's the valedictorian this year, and how many universities he's been accepted to. And I just have to read off this list. I almost have it memorized now. Brown, Carnegie Mellon, Dartmouth, Duke, Georgia Tech, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Rice, Stanford, UF, UNC Chapel Hill, Vanderbilt, and Yale. I think he's got a couple choices. I don't know. So I'll be excited to hear his speech this year at the Olympia graduation. And then the other exciting thing that I wanted to brag on is that Southwest Middle School has received the national recognition for high performance. They have been awarded the title of AVID, which stands for Advanced Via Individual Determination, a national demonstration school. They are only one of 143 schools in the nation to get this designation. So that's very, very exciting, and I want to congratulate the principal and the team there, as well as our area superintendent, John Rudzik, and the superintendent, Barbara Jenkins, for just such great staff and wonderful collaborative effort.
They're our third one, too.
Yeah, and they are the third one in this district.
Yeah.
All right, kudos, team. It's wonderful. All right, Florida School Boards Association, Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah, I didn't type up a board of directors minutes for you because there wasn't a whole lot. It was in conjunction with the days in the legislature. So pretty much we talked a lot that morning about what was happening in the legislature at the present moment at session. And there were a couple interesting things. They did announce the new officers that the nominating committee has put forth. President will be Diane Smith from Volusia. Vice President-elect, Vice President will be Tim Harris from Polk, and Treasurer will be Becky Couch from Duval. And I'm thrilled that I happen to know all three of those folks, and they're all phenomenal. So two of them come from our Central Florida School Boards Coalition. So that was fun. And then they've also, FSBA started an app. They have an app just like an OCPS app. So everybody needs to check that out. It'd be a good way to check in on things with them and get information. So anyway, those were the highlights. It was a quick board of directors meeting compared to some of the others I've been to. So anyway, thanks a bunch.
All right. Tomorrow morning at 7:30 at Citrus Club. I hope each and every one of you can get up and make it. We have an update of, it's FCAT. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gordon. But Philanthropic Strategic Plan, we're doing a recognition breakfast, giving an update to our community partners. I had low expectations, thought we might have about 50 attendees. I found out a little bit ago we're up to 115 attendees. So if you can make it in the morning, Citrus Club, 7:30. Lauren, would love to see you there if we can roll you out of bed. Program starts at 8. We've got a kid to get to school. She'll be up and going anyway, so come on by and join us if you'd like. And board members, don't worry if you haven't RSVP'd. If you want to make it, just show up, and we'd love to have you there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Since you mentioned Lauren, I want you to know Lauren was with us with Mr. Rosen fellowship with the Cornell University students. We had a big gala. I can't believe that she spent the entire time, but you missed the dinner. You missed the dinner. She stayed and met all of the students from Cornell and the entire community representatives on last week, and I was shocked to see her staying there the entire time. So again, Mr. Rosen hosted the students from Cornell, and of course, when he hosts them, they work in the homes and the schools. Lauren, they said they worked in the entire community. So, and they take their spring break and come down and help the students of Tangelo.
I'd get out of Ithaca, New York, and march myself to come down to Orlando, Florida. It's cold up there in March. All right, and board members, let's bring this in for a landing. I've given you the work session schedule. We have a work session on Thursday, a PSP plan update, also board budget priorities. Please come prepared to talk about your budget priorities on Thursday, what you'd like to see, get into the budget. Okay, now's the time. And then you can see after that, we've got the operating capital budget meetings coming up in May and in June, a Code of Student Conduct one in May. And then we are not doing marketing of public schools on Thursday. I believe Christine Moore said we canceled that one, but we are taking up a policy as well. And I've got on my list here to schedule a work session sometime by early fall, if that meets with you all's approval. I put it down on as restorative justice and what other jurisdictions are doing in the Code of Student Conduct violations to build on the conversation earlier today. It's not on there yet from what you wanted, Mrs. Gordon and Mr. Roach and a couple others. Ms. Gould, I've got a work session you've requested that I'm working with the superintendent on discussing. I've got that. And Mrs. Gordon, I'll have to get with you after the meeting. I lost you on the subcontractor one, but I'll get with you after the meeting and figure out what you wanted there. Anything else that y'all would like agenda for future meetings or discussions?
I just see that the union president is still in the audience, and there had been a request to have meetings of the budget committee, and I sent an email to her asking for her to put their budget priorities in written form and submit it to us. So I'm hoping that she will have those for us, because we have not been able to meet as a committee because of the impasse process. So I'm hoping that she will be able to let us know what the budget priorities are for CTA in writing for Thursday.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. With that, we are adjourned.
I'm a student at Harvard,
MIT, Caltech,
Columbia.
Our advantage? Support at home, plus great teachers and programs at Orange County Public Schools. Check out what's available for your child.
There are magnet programs, advanced placement and honors classes, and guidance counselors who help us choose the right courses.
There are dual enrollment classes with Valencia College, so students can earn college credit while in high school.
OCPS has programs for every type of learner, pre-kindergarten through adult.
You won't believe what you can do through Orange County Public Schools.
For more information, visit the website at ocps.net or call 407-317-3200.